Howdy, ladies and gentlemen. This is Paul, the Redneck Thinker. Thomas Jefferson said, if you want something you've never had, you must be willing to do something you've never done. Benjamin Franklin said, without continual growth and progress, such words as improvement, achievement, and success have no meaning. Basically, get off your rear end and get to working. That's the only way that you're going to get ahead. Now, before I get into it, so I don't forget it because I've been forgetting, please like, subscribe, comment, and there's going to be a link at the bottom for folks to connect with me because I like hearing from people. First topic, we're going to talk about two different things. But the first topic we're going to talk about, I was recently going through my Yahoo news feed. I've been a part of Yahoo since they were the search browser. That's how long ago it was. And they had from NBC News, there's been a major shift in demographics at the border. Here's what's behind the change. Wow, they're starting to realize that folks are not only Hispanic that are coming up from that border. One of the paragraphs, which this person, to be perfectly honest, needs to go to jail. A volunteer with the local humanitarian group hauled over a beverage cooler filled with papers. This is at the U.S.-Mexico border crossing. Filled with papers, legal information printed in 22 different languages as he handed them out in Guarati. Okay, I'm butchering that. Spanish, Portuguese, and Russian, he said, "Welcome to the United States." This is a new normal of migration to the southern border. What was once mostly a regional phenomenon has become truly global. We've been saying this as conservatives for quite a while now, with share migrants coming from the four closest countries dropping and the number from elsewhere from the world increasing. Okay, so we've got all of that. They're starting to realize, one of the other parts of this article, a sophisticated Chinese snakehead network illustrates a new era in migration. This is not a migration, this is an invasion. A trip was arranged by Chinese smugglers known as snakeheads. Wei never saw his snakeheads and he knew nothing about them. He communicated with them exclusively via WeChat and paid for everything online. The smuggler services cost him $10,000 per person. In return, he received precise instructions on where and how to meet with an interlocking series of local contacts, often members of pre-existing criminal smuggling networks, based in each of the countries he traveled through. It was these smugglers, Ecuadorians, Colombians, Mexicans, who did the actual work of moving Wei and his son from one place to another. Now, this is what's going on here. And here's from the Homeland Security, the Committee on Homeland Security. In fiscal year 2023, Border Patrol arrested 35,433 illegal aliens with criminal convictions nationwide, including 598 known gang members. In addition, 294 illegal aliens on the terrorist watch list have been apprehended at the southwest border between ports of entry since the beginning of fiscal year 2021. And those are only the individuals Border Patrol agents have caught. Think about that for a second. They've also seized 27,293 pounds of fentanyl coming across the southwest border, enough to kill around 6 billion people. Oh, Lord. The science. Notably, federal officials estimate they are only able to seize 5 to 10% of all fentanyl smuggled across the southwest border. As more illegal aliens than ever before turn themselves into Border Patrol in order to avail themselves of Senator Mayorkas' mass catch and release policies, the chief patrol agents highlighted in their interviews the national security threats posed by the illegal aliens who still avoid apprehension and what their backgrounds and intentions may be. Okay, there's that. Here's some numbers. In year to date, this is year to date, um, 9,666 criminal non-citizens have been encountered at the border. NCIC arrest individuals, including U.S. citizens who are wanted by other law enforcement agencies. This is what these arrests are. Since fiscal year 2024, 5,855 arrests. These are arrests. Border Patrol, same thing. Their numbers are 8,799, and Border Patrol's arrested 501 people. Think about that for a second. And here's the thing. In another news release from the Homeland Security Committee, I'm just going to tell you the title. FBI Director Wray confirms the border crisis poses major Homeland Security threat while DHS Secretary Mayorkas stonewalls. And, okay, there is something here. Members and witnesses also discuss the urgent need to address the threats to America's critical infrastructure from the Iranian regime and Chinese Communist Party, along with the need for the Senate to pass Homeland Republicans legislation to reauthorize the Chemical Facility Anti-Terrorism Standards Program, which protects high-risk chemical facilities. Why is it that Mayorkas gets away with this? I mean, the Democrats are that pathetic that they are going to allow a man who is criminal in his push to allow these criminals into this country. I keep saying criminals because they are criminals. This isn't the migrant food workers that people like Pelosi will have you think. No, this is terrorists. This is criminals that are crossing this border. Okay, and here's something from the Global Initiative Against Transnational Organized Crime. This was posted last year, 11 May 2023. Russian invasion of Ukraine has prompted thousands of Russians to flee their country for fear of political persecution. Migration flows from Central Asia, particularly Uzbekistan, have also surged. Many seek refuge in the U.S., facilitated by Russian and Uzbek-speaking smuggling networks operating in Turkey, Central America, and Mexico. Okay, according to U.S. Customs and Border Patrol border protection data, there were over 2.3 million encounters with irregular migrants at the southern border in 2022. Although Russian nationals constituted 1% of these, their numbers represented a fourfold increase compared to the years preceding Russia's invasion of Ukraine. As of March 2023, Russian nationals had reached a record high, accounting for 30,500 migrant encounters, a dramatic increase from 467 in 2020. Seriously, 467 encounters in 2020, now it's up to 30,500. And that was just last year. That's not counting this year. Let's see here. The other thing that I came across, Pew Institute. Venezuelans in particular stand out. Nearly 47,000 migrant encounters in December 2023 involved citizens of Venezuela, up from 6,000 a year earlier. The number of encounters involving Venezuelans were second only to approximately 56,000 involving Mexicans in December of 2023. There's also been a sharp increase in encounters with citizens of China despite its distance from the U.S.-Mexico border. The Border Patrol reported nearly 6,000 encounters with Chinese citizens at the southwestern border in December 23, up from 900 the year earlier. These numbers are increasing. Conservatives have been saying for quite a while, hey, we are encountering folks that are not Hispanic. You've got people that are speaking all kinds of languages coming up from that border because they're from those regions. These are not Hispanic individuals that can speak those languages. No, these are individuals, as I just said, from facts. These are folks who are Russian, Chinese. Okay, Venezuelan is down there. The gentleman that killed Lake and Riley, that Jose Ibarra feller, he was Venezuelan. So these folks are increasing their presence in the United States. These are people that are on terrorist watch lists, they're on criminal lists. These are not people that we want in this country. We got enough problems in our country as it is. We don't need to import criminals. That's not the only place to watch, but that's the biggest place to watch where we're having problems. I'm going to tell y'all a little story here. My family, my mother's side of the family, is from Virginia Beach, Virginia. I have spent quite a bit of time here. I'm currently living here. I don't know if it's still the case because of my illness, I wasn't able to interact with all these folks as much. I'm not able to get out there and hear from people as often. But 10, 15 years ago, it was well known that during the tourist season here in Virginia Beach, Virginia, it's a big tourist spot, you would have Russians coming over here legally, Russian females primarily coming over here. They would get hooked up with men. There were even clubs here in Virginia Beach to do this. They would hook up with local men and get married to them legally. Get married to them. They would wait the appropriate amount of time so that their status was secure. Notice I said they were waiting until their status was secure. And they would divorce the American man that they would get married to, and then they would bring their Russian guy over, get married to them, and ensure that this guy now was of legal status. Think about that for a second. We don't know who all these Russian mobsters are. We probably have a pretty good idea, but we may not know who all of them are. So this is a good way for some of these Russian mob individuals to get over here. This is a good way to get other criminals that aren't attached to the Russian mafia over here. So if that's happening in Virginia Beach, Virginia, which is ways away from any border you can cross naturally, wonder what they're doing at the southern border. How many guys marry folks that are Chinese, Russian, Hispanic, of whatever flavor country that they're from? And let me tell you something. There's a distinct difference between a Venezuelan, a Brazilian, and a Mexican. So, how many guys are down there getting married for this stuff? Seriously. This is a problem. Liberals are just starting to finally realize that it's becoming a problem. They don't realize the exact magnitude of it yet. But I can guarantee you that we're going to continue to have problems. Because we're already seeing problems. It's going to grow. That's the first topic I wanted to cover today. Second topic that I wanted to cover today is a little bit on the educational side. I was reading. I have a book here it's from the Signet Classics. It's called The Anti-Federalist Papers and the Constitutional Convention Debates. It was edited in an introduction by a guy by the name of Ralph Ketchum. I'm not sure who Ralph Ketchum is, but this is a pretty good book. I have read through it a few times, but I want to read you here. This is going to be, okay, this is a letter from the Pennsylvania minority. It was sent out December 18th, 1787. We're going back in time a little bit here. I was talking about a modern day issue. Now I'm going to cover founding father issue. I'm going to give you a little background here. After the Pennsylvania Convention ratified the new Constitution on December 12th, 1787, by a vote of 46 to 23. Now, mind you, this is Benjamin Franklin's state. So he was a major pusher to get the Constitution passed. It was Franklin and Washington that pushed to get the Constitution. They worked behind the scenes. James Madison wrote it, and they had a lot of input with Madison. 21 members of the minority signed a dissenting address that appeared in the Pennsylvania Packet and Daily Advertiser on December 18, 1787. The address was subsequently reprinted often in Pennsylvania and other states, becoming in some ways a semi-official statement of anti-federalist objections to the new Constitution. The author of the address was probably the same as the author of Sentinel. This was one of the names that was used by those that wrote the anti-federalist papers. Like with the Federalist Papers, you will see that it will be from Publius. Well, Sentinel was one of the names of the anti-federalist papers. Samuel Bryan, at least there are notable similarities between the two works, and Bryan later claimed authorship in letters to Jefferson and to Albert Gallatin. Okay, in this letter, this minority dissent letter from Pennsylvania, it listed 14 arguments. It specifically listed 14 arguments as to why the Constitution was not what the U.S. needed. Because there were freedoms that it didn't address. Those freedoms weren't addressed until James Madison kept his promise when he got to the House of Representatives and worked to get the Bill of Rights. Now here are the 14 arguments. I want you to listen to them. 1. The right of conscience shall be held inviolable, and neither the legislative, executive, nor judicial powers of the United States shall have authority to alter, abrogate, or infringe any part of the Constitution of the several states which provide for the preservation of liberty in matters of religion. Religious freedom, mind you, was a very important part of what was going on then. This destruction of people's, of communities, political or religious beliefs is getting ridiculous. They are allowing an atheistic minority to destroy freedom when it's not Congress that's doing it, it's the communities. Communities in the state, their religious preferences were supposed to be upheld, but they weren't. They aren't. Okay, number 2. That in controversies respecting property and in suits between man and man, trial by jury shall remain as heretofore, as well in the federal courts as in those of the several states. Property rights was invaluable to those folks back then. Property, and also notice trial by jury. 3. That in all capital and criminal prosecutions, a man has a right to demand the cause and nature of his accusations, as well in the federal courts as those in the several states, to be heard by himself and his counsel, to be confronted with the accusers and witnesses, to call for evidence in his favor, and a speedy trial by an impartial jury of his vicinage, without whose unanimous consent he cannot be found guilty, nor can he be compelled to give evidence against himself, and that no man be deprived of his liberty except by the law of the land or the judgment of his peers. More jury, more legal privileges that are rights to the American people. 4. That excessive bail ought not be required, nor excessive fines imposed, nor cruel or unusual punishments inflicted. Take a look at our legal system nowadays. Do you consider that it's neither cruel or unusual? For that matter, excessive fines. Think about that, folks. Excessive fines for that just this isn't being done today. 5. That warrants unsupported by evidence whereby any officer or messenger may be commanded or required to search suspected places or to seize any person or persons, his or their property, nor particularly described, are grievous and oppressive, and shall not be granted either by the magistrates of the federal government or others. Think about that one, and think about these FISA courts. How much fake information has been given? How often are these FISA warrants allowed? 6. That the people have the right to freedom of speech, of writing and publishing their sentiments. Therefore, the freedom of the press shall not be restrained by any law of the United States. Nowadays, you have the freedom of speech, freedom of press, but we keep thinking of freedom of press as in NBC, ABC, New York Times. We don't think about the fact the freedom of the press, and I will keep reiterating this, I have said it before. Freedom of the press was that people could do what they wanted with the available technology. What I am doing is technically freedom of the press. That freedom should not be mishandled. 7. Now listen to this one, ladies and gentlemen. This one, especially if you're conservative. 7. That the people have a right to bear arms for defense of themselves and their own state, or the United States, or for the purpose of killing game, and no law shall be passed for disarming the people or any of them unless for crimes committed, or real danger of public injury from individuals. And as standing armies in time of peace are dangerous to liberty, they ought not be kept up, and that the military shall be kept under strict subordination to and be governed by the civil powers. It almost sounds like we're supposed to be allowed to have firearms in this country. Think about that for a second. How many times do they keep going, well, hunting and this? Well, hunting was an important thing. That's how you got food. But defense of themselves and their own state. This is important now. 8. The inhabitants of several states shall have liberty to fowl and hunt in seasonable times on the lands they hold and on all other lands in the United States not enclosed, and in like manner to fish in all navigable waters and others not private property without being restrained therein by any laws to be passed by the legislature of the United States. We're way past that one. We have destroyed that one. 9. That no law shall be passed to restrain the legislatures of the several states from enacting laws for imposing taxes except imposts and duties upon goods imported or exported, and postage on letters shall be levied by the authority of the Congress. We're way past that one, too. 10. That the House of Representatives shall be properly increased in numbers, that elections shall remain free, that the several states shall have power to regulate the elections for senators and representatives without being controlled either directly or indirectly by any interference on the part of Congress, and that the elections of representatives be annual. Okay, it's every 2 years. I don't mind every 2 years. They'd be in constant campaign. They're already in constant campaigning. Imagine doing that once a year. No. 2 years is fine in the modern day. 11. That the power organizing, arming, and disciplining the militia, the manner of disciplining the militia to be prescribed by Congress, remain with individual states, and that Congress shall not have the authority to call or march any of the militia out of their own state without consent of each state, and for such length of time only as such state shall agree. Notice that they're talking about militias. We no longer have militias. We have the National Guard. And the National Guard can be called up against the wishes of the local government. The federal government has the right to call these up and send them wherever they want to send them. This is the case and has been done multiple times in our history since they have started the National Guard. There's a reason why they were wanting militias instead of this National Guard standpoint. Okay. There's also this at the end of 11. That the sovereignty, freedom, and independence of several states shall be retained in every power, jurisdiction, and right, which is not by this Constitution expressly delegated to the United States in Congress assembled. The 14th Amendment destroyed that. There was a use for the 14th Amendment, but it destroyed what our states were supposed to have. And the Supreme Court should be upholding this, but they're not. 12. That the legislative, executive, and judicial powers to be kept separate, and to this end that a constitutional council be appointed to advise, assist the President, who shall be responsible for the advice they give. Hereby the senators would be relieved from also constant attendance, and also that the judges be made completely independent. We kind of got that still. 13. That no treaty which shall be directly opposed to the existing laws of the United States and Congress assembled shall be valid until such laws shall be repealed or made conformable to such treaty. Neither shall any treaties be valid which are in contradiction to the Constitution of the United States or the constitutions of the several states. Yeah, that one's been blown out the water a long time ago, sadly. That's supposed to be the case, but it ain't. And 14, that the judiciary power of the United States shall be confined to cases affecting ambassadors, other public ministers, and councils, to cases of admiralty and maritime jurisdiction, to controversies to which the United States shall be party, to controversies between two or more states, between a state and citizens of different states, between citizens claiming lands under grants of different states, and between a state or citizen thereof and foreign states, and in criminal cases to such only as are expressly enumerated in the Constitution, and that the United States in Congress assembled shall not have power to enact laws which shall alter the laws of descents and distribution of all effects of deceased person, the titles of lands or goods, or the regulation of contracts in individual states. Now, I thought y'all might be interested in hearing these things. Our founding fathers were jealous of the freedoms that they had just fought for. They wanted to have everybody have those freedoms, and they weren't wanting to allow a federal government to destroy these freedoms. While, okay, there are several states that have destroyed freedoms of their own people, the federal government is going a long way in setting up a way to destroy freedoms every chance they get. I mean, that's the really sad part about this. People aren't paying attention to what their members of Congress are doing, or they'll vote for somebody along a party line instead of paying attention to what these folks are doing when they get up there until it's too late. We have to defend our freedom. There's a reason why they're called representatives, not leaders. They are not leaders. They're supposed to be our representatives. They ain't representing us most of the time. And this was thought about by the Founding Fathers. The Anti-Federalists were wanting to make sure that our freedoms were codified into law. So now we've got a government that is violating our freedoms that was codified into law. This is God-given rights. Freedom of religion, freedom of speech, freedom of press. But freedom of press isn't journalism. Freedom of press is that anybody can use existing technology to have their voice heard. So, like I said, I used this example. What I am doing on here is freedom of the press. While I do journalism on occasion, and I will be doing journalism, I'm going to cover what I said about the border. I've got all that documented, and I'm going to write the article so you can check the information that I gave. We have freedoms for a reason in this country. But instead of us fighting for our freedoms, we have allowed these people to slowly erode it. It's idiotic that we keep voting in these people, and they're claiming to be conservative. Some of these folks are claiming to be conservative. They ain't. But these folks are going up there, and they are constantly creating laws. They should not be in Congress all the time. They should not be up there. Their most important job is to come back home and listen to the people. Their most important job is not to be protected. If you are a real representative of the people, you ain't got a lot to worry about. If you are truly representing the people's wants, the people will defend you. If you are truly being a representative, you are seen as one of the people. You aren't seen as this weird thing of calling them leaders. If you are a member of the House of Representatives, you are not a leader. If you're a member of the Senate, you are not a leader. I know it's considered the senior house, but here's the thing. You are not a leader. You are supposed to be representing your state government. That's the stupid part of it. When we destroyed that, we destroyed so much of our freedom. Going back to 1912, 1913 time period. We cannot allow these folks to continuously think that they're leaders. They're not. They do not deserve special protection. Yes, they are going to get attacked. You take a look at Rand Paul. Rand Paul got attacked by some weirdo. That was his neighbor. But then again, no, that's the Democrat Party for you. They resort in violence. If they can't scream you down, they're going to attack you physically. But I can guarantee you that Rand Paul has a much better reputation than this violent Democrat. I shouldn't even say violent Democrat. Just to say the word Democrat is to emphasize that they're violent. And you can say whatever you want, but you take a look at the history of the Democrat Party, and the Democrat Party uses violence. Have there been Republicans? A few, and very few. That's the thing. We are supposed to have freedoms in this country. Our representatives should be part of what we are. They should be part of what our everyday life is. They are not supposed to be in D.C. as much as they are. Them being in D.C. is idiotic. I'm tired of hearing these people get on their platforms and talk about, oh, they should be staying there and doing what? No. They should not. They should be doing whatever is needed in Washington, D.C. and spending much more time being around the people that they are supposed to represent. I am tired of hearing that they should be there. No, while they're in D.C., they are under the influence of lobbyists, of their primary political parties, and all these special interest groups. They should be coming home. They should be home more than 6 months out of the year. Let me repeat that. They should be home more than 6 months of the year. They should not be they should not be creating all these laws and bills. They don't even actually do that anymore. You take a look at what's actually being passed. Most of the time they're up there flapping their jaws, not doing anything that is worthwhile to anybody. They should be at home mingling with the people, not holding important meetings. No, they should be mingling with the everyday person and listening to what they need. Because these freedoms that I just wrote you that the Anti-Federalists fought to get, those freedoms are what makes us us. That is what makes the United States the United States. And we have been allowing it to erode. Well, there are ways to get that back. There are ways to get these representatives knowing, not listening to these extreme Democrats, these terrorist supporting, pedophile supporting individuals. How many of these Democrats are supporting Palestine? How many of these Democrats are supporting some of the worst regimes in this world? You've also got Republicans supporting some of the worst regimes in this world. It needs to end, and it comes by them coming home and listening to us, the people. And it also requires that we, the people, educate ourselves. That's part of the problem. I am actually kind of tired. Actually, I'm not kind of tired. One of the reasons why I created Redneck Thinker is because so many people that I listen to to you folks. I really do. But so many of you don't actually know what it says in history. You don't know what the Constitution means. You quote people who want to pervert what it means. You should be studying the Constitution. I just read from you the Anti-Federalist Papers. These aren't my words. These are the words of the people that fought for our freedoms in the Constitution. These are the people you should be listening to, not these people that tell you separation of church and state, not these people who just are not looking after your freedom or your best interest. We need to get back to understanding why we have the freedom that we have. We need to get back to the point where we actually do have freedom. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for listening to me. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment, all that happy stuff. And like I said, there's a link tree down at the bottom that you can find all my links to my book. The itch.io is where my book is. It's with visual novel software. And I hope you come by again. This is Paul, the Redneck Thinker. Have a good day.